And we're going to move on now to our next little story. I think this will set us up perfectly for going into the woo. Because we often talk about how there's a strong possibility, especially when I start getting all quantum and we go all Schrodinger's cat and all that kind of thing. And I'm not going to get too technical here. I know it loses some people. But a lot of that talk, dimensions here, dimensions there, parallel worlds, many worlds. A lot of it, it doesn't even make it to being theory. Quite hypothetical, hard to test, hard to prove, right? But what if I was to tell you that now there might be some evidence of just that very thing? Parallel worlds. Now, I get it. We've accepted these things have been around forever, right? We know that. We talk about them as if they've been entirely proven. We talk about the spiritual realm, where these ooga boogas hang out, when myself and Bill talk about these dark entities, where I suppose you could argue that ghosts and things like that reside as well. We've talked about the interdimensional aspects of reality when it comes to perhaps the Bigfoot and other cryptids that appear to be here one minute and gone the next. And yet we never find any kind of evidence to support they live here or any, carcasses, any skeletons. Bit weird. How can that be? Same with Nessie. Does it just come into our physical realm now and again? And does it go somewhere else, some other dimension, in between times? And again, we talk about it like they're definitely out there. Well, now we're getting closer to really nailing it down and proving it. And I know it'll trigger some people. But NASA have been doing experiments, and their scientists might have found a parallel universe next to ours, and all of this comes after an experiment that they were doing down in Antarctica. Now, I know there'll be people out there saying, Kev, they weren't doing that in Antarctica. They were doing this, that, and the other. Well, I can only report to you what we have on the table here, okay? And again, I never tell you what to think. I merely encourage you to take the information and think for yourself. And the byline here says one of the biggest debates is whether a theory of a parallel universe or multiverses is real. And with some people, including some experts who believe it exists, and the other group in disagreement. So it says, although it remains a mystery, it's a popular concept in films, TV series, and the Kev Baker Show. Nevertheless, it may not be fiction anymore, as NASA scientists themselves have found possible evidence of a parallel universe next to our own. Wonder if they went to the moon in that one. I'm only just throwing it out there. So it says here in a report by the Daily Star, a cosmic ray detection experiment conducted by several NASA scientists found particles that might be from outside our own universe. Now, the group of experts were working with NASA's Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna, ANITA for short, and they used a giant balloon to haul the device high above Antarctica, where it is cold, dry air, which provides the excellent condition to use it there, as there is no radio noise that could distort the findings. And ANITA is an instrument that detects ultra-high energy cosmic ray neutrinos. Now, these high energy particles are millions times more powerful than anything we can create here on Earth. And these neutrinos have become a great interest to astrophysicists, as they are the only ones that can reach Earth unattenuated. So that's without them losing any of their power. So according to the news outlet, low energy neutrinos can pass by our planet with no problem, barely interacting with anything. Nevertheless, high energy particles will be stopped by our planet's solid matter, which is why these high energy particles are detected coming down from space. However, the team's ANITA detected a tau neutrino, or a heavier particle coming from up out of the Earth in 2016, which means that these particles are either traveling back in time or evidence of a parallel universe. Join me after the break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Second part of today's Kev Baker Show right here on your number one network, Truth Frequency Radio. www.tfrlive.com. Wherever you are, make it TFR. You know, a place where silence is consent and where we offer you protection from deception. Yes, indeed. And I don't know what's going over on the TFR Live YouTube live stream, but I checked in there quickly just during the break, and you know, they're talking about hooking up with mermaids and mermales and crossbreeding them, and who knows what I missed in that chat room. But if you want to be a part of that, head on over to the TFR Live YouTube channel. We've also got another chat room at tfrlive.com/chat. The number one Wookiee cave on the planet. And I think that's apt, since I can guarantee you that we are definitely the number one para-abnormal show on the internet. We're not even the number one abnormal show anymore. We've created an even more kind of selective, kind of niche market for ourselves here. The para-abnormal. It's that weird, even I can't wrap my head around it. But that's the kind of world we live in. And how many worlds are there? That's a good question, right? Many different versions of Kev Baker. Or more importantly to you, how many versions of you are out there? Always boggles my mind when you start to get into the whole kind of quantum universe and all the possibilities and probabilities that may spin off from any given event, the branching off into separate universes where that version takes place and the other option, the other fork in the road of the path you chose, it takes place as well, and everything all happening parallel to one another. Is there a limited number of these parallel worlds? How does it work? Are they stacked one on top of the other? Philip K. Dick, did he give us a clue when he said that they were laterally stacked? You know, 90 degrees away from our 3D time-space world that we live here. It's both fascinating and mind-melting all at the same time, isn't it? But isn't that just why the quantum world is just the place for the Kev Baker Show? Because it's kind of weird, it's kind of wacky. I can have this spooky action at a distance, where hopefully I can remotely cause you to think about things in a different light, maybe from a different angle. Maybe we spin off many other versions of ourselves during the show alone. Who honestly knows? And some people might say, well, Kev, we don't need scientists to tell us that there's proof of what we already know. We talk about the paranormal and the supernatural all the time. I talk about UFOs until sometimes the cows don't come home, right? But you get me. And that just takes for granted the existence of these things, these parallel realities, these other dimensions. And some might say, so why do we have to wait for scientists to say, yeah, here we go, you know, we're starting to prove what you guys have been talking about forever? And I just think it helps when you're having the conversation with somebody who might not be into this kind of topics, these kind of conversations, because you can now say to them, look, you know, we're talking about interdimensional reality, but where there are other worlds all around us, right on top of us, you know, possibly living amongst us. Only we don't see because of our fine slither of the whole light spectrum, but you've got the things we don't see here in our dimension, our reality, that we don't see because of our limited kind of vision. But then you've got all these other realities and possibilities as well. And I just think it does always help when you're having a conversation with somebody who might not be into it, might not believe in things like ghosts or the paranormal or Bigfoot being some interdimensional creeper. How can that even be a thing, Kev Baker? Well, there's scientists that were down at the South Pole that pretty much are looking at proving that there are parallel worlds, you know. And then it's no longer coming from tinfoil Kev, you see. And again, you know, people that they like it when it comes from dudes in white coats. They see that authority figure, and I don't know why, but it seems to sink in more. It means more when it comes from them than when it comes from people like us. So let's get back into this article. I'm really enjoying it. And of course, that leads us into the UFOs. Because if there's craft that are flying here from other planetary systems, then even if they are able to fly at the speed of light and slightly beyond, the distances that we're talking about, still a problem. Unless you're able to travel interdimensionally. And when you're starting to hear stories coming out about science experiments that are really kind of cutting edge and possibly proving the existence of other dimensions and worlds and things, kind of relevant, wouldn't you think? Wouldn't you say? So then, let's get back into it here. We just got to the point where we had these new tau neutrinos, right? We usually detect neutrinos coming down from space. But in 2016, they actually recorded one coming up from the center of the planet. And this has got them thinking about parallel worlds. Or even, are they looking at a particle traveling back in time? So it goes on to say that the bizarre phenomenon was reported by NASA scientists led by Peter Gorham and an experimental particle physicist from the University of Hawaii, as well as a principal investigator of the ANITA project. Even the discovery of the tau neutrino happened by accident, as Gorman and his team decided to investigate signals that had been dismissed as noise in the first two flights of the device. So this isn't even just a one-off then, by the sounds of it. This is something that might be continuous. Is it bleed through from the other verse? We've talked about how, you know, it does seem like we're almost merging with other timelines, other realities. Are we starting to detect particles coming from there? And what happens in other realities when we go bursting holes in the fabric of space and time out of our reality? Do they start picking up tau neutrinos coming from, oh, I don't know, maybe a location near what we call Switzerland on this timeline? Geneva, to be more specific. 300 feet underground to get really, really close to what's going on at CERN. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? So, it says here, and this comes from the Tech Times, in an attempt to explain the strange happening, Gorham suggests that the particle changed into a different type before it passed through the Earth and then back again, which is the only way it could happen, but not everyone was comfortable with this hypothesis. It's extremely rare that it might happen only once, but the team has witnessed this phenomenon happen several times. With that, the simplest and most scientifically elegant explanation is linked to the parallel universe, wherein when the Big Bang happened, two universes were formed, and that the other world runs in reverse. In this mirror world, time runs backward. Nevertheless, it's still a possibility that the results came from a bizarre error in the ANITA code or that ANITA made. But if it's not, it may finally be the proof, the existence of parallel worlds. Quote, we're left with the most exciting or the most boring possibility, said Ibrahim Safa, who also works on the experiment. Now, it's not the ANITA experiment, but I've really enjoyed having Dr. Brian Keating on the show a number of times. And he worked at an experiment down in Antarctica called the bicep experiment. And they were looking at the cosmic background radiation out there coming from, the Big Bang. And they thought they had made an absolutely astounding discovery that had them on the cusp and had people talking about, Brian and the team getting the Nobel Prize. Only it was something similar to this, because either they had found something massive and game changing, or they had let confirmation bias and errors in the code and things they were looking at cloud their judgment. And I hope that we find that this story continues to produce more tau neutrinos, more evidence of those worlds that we know surely exist, right? Right? But we'll wait and see. And I know the world we live in today, anything scientists say, and rightly so, it should be challenged, but not to the point where anytime a scientist speaks, we must stick our fingers in our ears and deny it and kind of drown it out. We have to keep our minds very, very open, folks. And I know with NASA being at the heart of this story, it's hardly going to take any of the suspicions of people away. But we'll continue to watch it. We'll continue to see what they say in the world of science when it comes to the kind of places that we love to talk about. The interdimensional, the in-between, the upside down. The place where the woo resides.